Welcome into another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton Wasserman here with another 2025 NFL mock draft. But Dalton, this one is way different than anyone we've done before. And I'm sure a lot of comments will probably be saying this is the worst mock draft I've ever seen, because what we're doing in this mock draft is using the PFF Mock Draft Simulator. We can only select players that the fans don't most often take for their team. So in the PFF Mock Draft Simulator, you can find, of course, at pff.com, there is a tab where you can see what are the players that fans of that team most often select for their team. So whatever players are on that tab, we cannot use. You see producer Eli's pulling up for you guys right now in the analysis tab. So for example, Tennessee at number 1 overall. You and I cannot take Cam Ward, and we cannot take Abdul Carter. Anyone else is on the table for them, but I think this would be an interesting mock draft. Obviously, it probably won't be the most realistic one that we do, but then again, the NFL draft's always an event that produces a lot of surprises, right? Michael Penix Jr. went to the Atlanta Falcons. Nobody thought that would happen last year, so maybe, just maybe, we can get some of the surprising picks right with this style mock draft.
Yeah, I think for sure, one, it's the contrarian mock draft, but honestly, I think we're going to see here, this is going to apply to be wild for maybe the first 5 or 6 picks, and then I think after that, you get into some very realistic scenarios of, okay, maybe what are some positions even that we're not thinking about for some of these teams in the mid to later first round that you go, okay, they just like this player on their board, best player available, more so than what we might perceive to be their biggest need or two.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into this mock draft. And of course, it's available with a PFF Plus subscription at subscribe.pff.com, and our 2025 NFL Draft Guide is available with that subscription as well. So this mock draft will go off the rails pretty quickly, but I'm excited to get into it. Do you want the odds or evens picks in this one?
I can go first. I'll go first this time.
All right, so you cannot take Tennessee Titans number 1 overall. As we said before, you cannot take Cam Ward or Abdul Carter. So who is the pick here?
Okay, I'm just very glad there's not a third name on that list because I still need a quarterback in Tennessee. Now, he's a guy that you and I both have as QB1. It's extremely close. I understand if you have Cam Ward QB1, and I know the Titans just canceled their private meeting with Shedeur Sanders, in all likelihood taking Cam Ward realistically, but since we're doing it for the sake of this exercise, let's see what happens if they were to shock the world and take Shedeur Sanders first overall.
All right, number 1 overall, Shedeur Sanders going to the Tennessee Titans. At number 2, it's a little interesting for me now because Cleveland Browns are on the clock. Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and Shedeur Sanders are who fans of the Browns most often take with this pick. But because I'm sure most fans take Cam Ward, number 1 overall, to the Titans, he was not one of those names listed for the Cleveland Browns. So what I'll do here for Cleveland is probably get their dream scenario here and take Cam Ward, number 2 overall, to the Browns. And I think, like I said before, if this actually happened on draft night where the Titans for some reason did not take Cam Ward at number 1, which seems like it'll be pretty much locked in, I think Cleveland would sprint this card in.
It sounds like, recently and even over the last 2 months that the Browns and Giants have both tried to trade up to the first spot to get Cam Ward, but the Titans couldn't find a deal that they liked with either of them, and they like Cam Ward enough that they're going to go there. But here, if the Titans were to take Shedeur first on the 1 in 1,000 chance that it could happen, I highly doubt it now, then you would almost certainly see the Browns taking Cam Ward at number 2, and I think that's probably who they would prefer, especially with the better arm strength to rip through the cold weather up there in Cleveland. I think they'd be very satisfied with this.
Absolutely. So number 3 overall, the New York Giants are on the clock. Let's see who is not available to you. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders. Those 3 players are the most often selected. This is the most fun part of it. You're kind of praying a guy is not on the fans' pick, but obviously the fans know ball here. So without Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter on the board here for New York, who are you going with?
Proof that the fans know ball. They know ball because almost half of them taking Travis Hunter with this pick. All right, this is going to be the first one. A little bit off the wall. A player I still absolutely love. I think he's a top 4 football player in this draft, and I think let's call it an underrated need. Maybe it's not something the Giants would address this early, but it'd be a shock the world scenario. It's something they'd probably address later. I'm going to take Mason Graham here to go next to Dexter Lawrence on the defensive line, and I'm not allowed to take Carter, the edge player here, who obviously would work into the rotation with Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. But if you look at the Giants' defensive tackle depth beyond Dexter Lawrence, there's not much of it. When he got hurt last year, that unit completely caved in. If you had Graham as that more athletic 3 technique next to Lawrence, who's the best nose tackle in football, I actually think this is a reasonable football move here here. They wouldn't do it likely over Hunter or Carter, but I could do a lot worse than putting Mason Graham on that defensive line with Lawrence, with Burns, with Thibodeau. I think you're really rolling with that front four there.
Absolutely, yeah. Mason Graham is one of the blue chip players in this class. Of course, again, he would not be a pick over Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, but in this unique mock draft here, that's what we're doing here. We actually had a comment on from Keith saying this is kind of dumb, but I was like, dude, listen, we've done so many mock drafts where we do the same picks over and over again. We're trying to spice it up a little bit.
I really think once we get by these first like 6 or 8, we're going to have a lot of fun, because I do think, in the middle to later part of this round, it's going to be, again, you always get picks. We're going to get
some guys are going to fall.
We're going to get 4 or 5 picks out of the 32 that everyone goes, oh, I had no idea that was just like you mentioned Michael Penix last year. These are the things that can happen. We don't even just with the quarterbacks, we don't know what could happen with this draft, and I think that's going to be the case for as much as people have talked about. There's a lack of blue chip talent. Well, that means there's going to be a whole lot of different opinions around the league about certain guys.
Absolutely. So now I'm up at number 4 with the New England Patriots, and a ton of players are not available to me.
Yeah, you got the brunt.
I got the short end of the stick here. Abdur Carter not available. Travis Hunter not available. Will Campbell, Tenero McMillan, Armand Membu not available. So, Dalton, instead, what I will do is if the Patriots want to take a tackle at number 4, if I was a GM of the team, what I would do is take Kelvin Banks Jr. I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is the best offensive lineman in the draft. I think he right now, actually putting together my big board for the draft right now, I have him as the number 9 overall player on my big board. I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is an elite talent. He had like an 86 PFF grade against like 7 of the top 15 defensive lines that he faced in the country last year. So against elite competition, Kelvin Banks Jr. was an elite player. I think he is a top 10 pick in this draft, and if the Patriots want to take a tackle at number 4, which it sounds like they very much want to do, I think Kelvin Banks Jr. would be my pick. He's, again, not going to go over Will Campbell or Armand Membu, and I think in the actual draft, but in terms of what I would do here, I think Kelvin Banks Jr. would be a pretty fine pick.
Any thought on Ashton Jeanty there? I think it was an option for you. Would you have at least thought about it, or are you just going to continue to build the line and get running back? I mean, the Banks pick is already in. I'm taking
Banks, but that is a good call. I would have taken Banks anyways, because I think you still need to protect Drake May as much as possible.
Okay, all right. I'm a little bit stuck here with the Jags as well at 5. So Mason Graham's off the board anyway, and that's where I've been going most often with Jacksonville. But also McMillan, Carter, Tyler Warren, and Travis Hunter are all listed there. I can't go with Travis Hunter either. He's killing me.
Travis Hunter is slipping.
We're getting the slide on Hunter and Carter. We're getting the slide. All right, so I can't. Hunter, Carter, McMillan are all gone. Graham has already been gone.
Warren's gone too.
I can't do Warren either.
Oh boy. Go Jeanty and just trade Etienne or something, or
well, maybe I get predictive here.
Okay.
There has been a lot, and I can't tell you that I'm the biggest fan of it. There's been a boatload of talk lately connecting Jacksonville to Jalen Walker from Georgia. Do we kind of ride the smoke a little bit and put that in here as a possibility? It's something I'm not a huge fan of. If Graham or Hunter are on the board, that should be the pick. But I can't do it here. Let's go with the smoke. Let's ride the rumors for a minute here. Let's say Jalen Walker at 5 to Jacksonville, because there's been a lot of steam picking up on that the last week or two.
I love that. Yeah, I think Jalen Walker, I don't love it, I should say, but I think that's definitely an option for Jacksonville. And again, in this kind of mock draft where you're not going with the consensus picks, this might be a good surprise pick that we could predict here on this mock draft with Jalen Walker. Again, I don't love it considering they have Trayvon Walker there and Josh Hines-Allen, and putting him at linebacker with Devin Lloyd's a weird fit with him too. But it sounds like that they're interested in Jalen Walker. It sounds like he might be at least one of the picks they have there at number 5. At number 6 here, I'm going to stop the slide here for Travis Hunter. He is not one of the 4 players that Raiders fans most often select. They select Jeanty, McMillan, Graham, and Carter the most. And with the Raiders having the worst coverage grade in the NFL, I should say, this past season, Travis Hunter is my CB1 in this draft, and also he could be one of your top receivers as well, and that's also a big need for Las Vegas with Geno Smith now there. They have Jacoby Myers, they have Brock Bowers, but they could use another weapon. Travis Hunter is another weapon for them, and he should help fix what was the worst secondary in the NFL last year.
Well, it's the worst secondary in the NFL, and they're just further rebuild. They're trying to rebuild it. They didn't sign much in free agency. They actually just cut Jack Jones, so now they're really starting fresh in this secondary, and what better way to start fresh than Travis Hunter? The slide stops there, and I think if Pete Carroll were to end up with Hunter, he would be absolutely over the moon on both sides of the ball, but I think you're right, especially at corner where they need to rebuild that whole back seven.
Absolutely. All right, number 7 overall, the New York Jets. Membu's gone, Will Campbell's gone, Tyler Warren's gone, McMillan's gone. Who are you going with for the Jets here?
Okay, Membu and Warren have really been the two that are getting the momentum lately. I can't take McMillan for as much as I want him. I actually think at this point it might, and this might happen in a trade-up in this scenario, but I think it would just be Abdul Carter as best player available here. I think you put him in there with Jermaine Johnson, with Will McDonald. Hassan Reddick is gone. You've got 3 really good young players there, and I don't know if McDonald or Johnson would be on the trade block, but I don't mind having all 3 of them. And with Carter, all the things you can do, moving him around the formation, right, and having him blitz from anywhere that you want, like he used to when he was at linebacker. Again, that Micah Parsons level of impact, we haven't seen that from Jermaine Johnson. Plus, he's coming off a torn Achilles. We haven't seen that yet from Will McDonald. I don't think we're going to see that, and he may not even be an every down player. He kind of struggles in run defense. So talent play, best player available, Abdul Carter, New York Jets.
Yeah, it feels like if he's available at number 7 overall, the Jets are not passing.
That's as far as he can slide. And if we're not doing trades, if he gets down to 4, you're going to see teams picking up the phone possibly to New England. But I don't know that he would get any further than 7 anyway if that somehow were to happen. But I think he's probably going in the top 4.
Yeah. So I have Carolina here at number 8 overall. Tedder McMillan is not available, which I would have loved. Jahdae Barron, Mike Green, Abdul Carter are not available.
Ooh, some people, it's 6% of people were still getting Carter down to 8.
Yeah, that'd be an incredible haul if they can get.
Unless it's a trade-up scenario there too with the Panthers. I don't know if this goes by the team or by the pick selection, but either way, 6% still holding out. Holding out hope for Carolina to get Carter.
What I might do here, I think I might go with James Pierce Jr., the edge from Tennessee. He's my number 2 edge in the draft. I have him as a top 10 player in the draft as well. I think he's a freak athlete. He would help fill that void left behind by trading away Brian Burns. He's been one of the best pass rushers in college football in each of the last 2 years in the SEC as a sophomore and junior, and there's still a lot of room for development for James Pierce Jr., which points to a very high ceiling in my opinion as well. So I think this is a player the Panthers should be interested in at number 8 overall, with Abdul Carter probably off the board by then. So I actually don't hate this for Carolina number 8.
I don't hate it at all. I mean, we know the lessons. If they have a shot at McMillan, I think they should heavily think about it. If not, who's the best defensive player that they could want? There was a handful of them there that were not available to them. Pierce makes a lot of sense. Either way, lowest pass rush grade in football last year. Need help. If you can't rush the passer, you're not going to get very far. I get that for Carolina.
All right, number 9 overall, the New Orleans Saints. A ton of players are not available to you at number 9. Who are you going with here?
That is true, and I think the big one that sticks out to me is Will Campbell, which is one I've been mocking to them a lot. But I'm going to go with another offensive lineman that's actually not on that list. In this case, I think he would still be very much of interest to them. That's Armand Membu from Missouri. I think if we're going to leave him on the right side, leave Talisi Fuaga on the left side, then you're getting into a conversation of Trevor Penning maybe moving into guard. Left guard is the open spot right now. I actually now think maybe with Pierce at 8, although it seems like teams are a little bit down on him lately. Might go later in the round. I think now with Membu going to the Saints is where we start getting actually a little more realistic on something that could happen here, right? If Membu doesn't go in the top 8, would the Saints consider him the most talented, the most athletic lineman in this draft? And obviously a very good zone blocker, as we know, got a lot better in pass protection this year. I actually think now, once again, I knew this top 7 or 8 was going to get weird just because we feel like we're so locked in, especially on the top 6. We've really got a narrow picture of that. But yeah, once we get to 7, 8, 9 in this range here, I think the Saints have a lot of options, and Membu could be one of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, Armand Membu, the guy who's been rising on boards a lot lately, going to the Saints at number 9 overall. With the Bears at number 10, so not available to me, is Tyler Warren, Ashton Jeanty, Malachi Starks, Will Campbell, and Mike Green. So that's tough because I would have loved, obviously, Ashton Jeanty falling here would be great. Tyler Warren would be a really fun fit for that offense as well. What I think might actually happen on draft day, though, Dalton, with if Genty's not on the board here, I still think they might prioritize an edge rusher at number 10. And I think one of the guys they might prioritize was not one of the players that the Bears select Bears fans, I should say, select most often in this mock draft. I'm going to go with Shamar Stewart here. I think he is a guy that might go top 15 overall in the draft. And like I said before, I think he might start at number 10 overall to the Bears. I think that's where his run really could start. I think this is actually a pretty realistic pick for him. I would have him a little lower on my personal big board, but in terms of like what I think might happen, I think Shamar Stewart going this high could definitely happen.
Some serious measurables you're talking about there, and I think Dennis Allen likes those guys at defensive end, and one of the things the Bears struggled with off the edge was defending the run. If nothing else, even if he's a bit raw as a pass rusher and he needs some work, Shamar Stewart is a good rangy run defender who I think could complement Montez Sweat well on the other side. I think in a perfect world, to me, if Ashton Jeanty were on the board and you were allowed to take him, that's where I'm going with this. But I think Shamar Stewart actually very much could be a prime target for the Bears here, and they could wait for the second round to get a running back.
All right, number 11 overall, the 49ers.
Okay, no Membu, no Barron, wow, no Johnson. A lot of people going corner for the 49ers. Yeah. Look at that. We got almost 24% of people going corner with Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron to the Niners. That's interesting. Will Campbell's off the board. Mike Green's off the board. Kelvin Banks. So I'm not going offensive line here is what they're telling me. I can't go. I pretty much can't go O-line or corner. This is like the one team I wouldn't take. I couldn't take Tyler Warren either. You
have George Kittle there.
You have George Kittle and another George Kittle. Not McMillan.
What about McMillan, though, with Ayuk's trade rumors swirling around?
Well, last Tuesday, he had a bonus I think it was last Tuesday, he has a bonus that kicked in.
Yeah.
They're not going to trade him now because that bonus, now they have basically no cash benefit to trading him this season. He's going to be a 49er this season.
Well, what about the future, though?
I mean, they just got Pearsall. Jennings is good. I think, no corner. I'll give you one. I'll make a ceiling pick like you did with Stewart. This team needs help on the defensive line too, and I know Mike Green is the one guy that I'm not allowed to take here. I'm going to go to the interior. I think a guy that Robert Saleh might see a high ceiling in, kind of a 3 technique that, again, outside of Nick Bosa, they need a lot of work on this D-line too. Let's go with Walter Nolan from Ole Miss.
Ooh, okay.
It's a ceiling pick. I think there's some teams in the league that might feel really good about that ceiling, that might feel like he's a top 15 type player in this draft. Still a little bit of ways to go as a pass rusher. We only saw 1 year of big-time production. Got away from A&M, went to Ole Miss, absolutely teed off. He was one of the best D-tackles in the country this year. Let's go Walter Nolan and try to really reset this 49ers defensive line, because I couldn't take Will Campbell. That's one big reason I might have taken Will Campbell there if I was allowed to. But let's go Walter Nolan. We'll set this defensive lineup for the Niners, and we'll worry about offensive line later.
Love it. Walter Nolan going to the 49ers. I think he might go higher than some people will predict on draft night as well, so I don't hate that. Number 12 overall, this is pretty easy for me because Ashton Jeanty is not one of the players that fans select most often for the Cowboys. I probably bet that means that he's going most often to the Raiders or Bears before that, which is why he's not available to the Cowboys here. But because he did fall to number 12 overall, this is a pretty easy pick for me with Ashton Jeanty going to the Dallas Cowboys with Ted McMillan off the board, Luther Burden's off the board, Matthew Golden's off the board, Mike Green and Amarion Hampton. I think Ashton Jeanty as my number 2 overall player in the draft, going to a team that really needs help in the run game. I think this is a perfect fit for
I find it interesting.
Dallas.
Did you see there that more than 40% of the people, the top 3 players selected in the mock draft simulator for the Cowboys were McMillan, Burden, and Golden?
Almost 50% are wide receivers.
They really want a wide receiver in Dallas. For as much as I have talked endlessly all offseason about Dallas needs to run the ball and stop the run, and we've got more than half the people taking a receiver for them. Maybe there's something behind that, because I saw Marion Hampton there too, because I assume that means, okay, they think Jeanty's not available before that. He's going somewhere in the top 10, but I found it interesting. The top 3 players that fans are drafting right now are all receivers to the Cowboys. We're looking for some help for CeeDee Lamb out there, aren't we?
Yeah, it makes sense, but I think if Jeanty's there, I'd be hard-pressed to see Jerry Jones passing on him at number 12. So
That's interesting.
Works out there.
How about it?
All right, Miami, number 13 overall. Will Johnson not available. Malachi Starks is not available. Jahdae Barron and Josh Simmons are not available for you.
Okay, but I can take Will Campbell. That's what
yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Will Campbell's available and I can take him. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Miami,
easy.
Any of these top 3 offensive linemen, Campbell, Banks, Membu, if they're on the board at 13, take them. I don't care. Just in this same exact scenario, I think this may be the most realistic pick we've had yet. Any of these 3, don't care which one. You need offensive line help. You need protection for Tua, especially on that left side. If Campbell's playing tackle, cool. If he moves in and plays left guard, cool. Same thing I've said with Banks, same with Membu. Miami needs offensive linemen. I don't think we need to overthink this. I know they have needs in the secondary, but nothing matters for this team if Tua's not protected and he gets injured again. Nothing else matters.
I agree with that, yeah. So Will Campbell, number 13 overall, makes a lot of sense, especially after Teron Armstead's retirement. Will Campbell, one of the top tackles, offensive linemen in this year's draft. And even if you don't want him playing tackle, Patrick Paul can play tackle, and he at least takes over for Liam Eichenberg, who is one of the worst guards in football as well. So that makes a lot of sense for Miami, number 13 overall, and it feels like if he is there at 13, he might be the pick that they go with.
Look at this. We've got almost 58% of people taking a tight end.
I know. It sucks.
Almost 58%. They want one of these. The people of Indianapolis want one of these two tight ends.
Warren is the guy I would have gone with, but obviously he can't be in this mock draft.
The fans know ball too well. The fans of Indianapolis know ball. They know ball.
It's really hard. And just to remind people of everyone who's joining this mock draft right now, those guys you see on the mock draft simulator are not available to us to be picked. We're trying to do a mock draft where we go against the fans in this, and whoever the fans take in the mock draft simulator, we cannot take for the team here. So all those players listed right there for the Colts, I cannot take at number 14 overall. This is tough, man. This is really tough.
I mean, I think there's an alternative here. I think there's two players there at the same position that are an alternative.
You think so?
Yeah. Yeah, I think beyond.
I'm looking at Jahdae Barron.
I think beyond all these options, you start looking at these two corners.
Yeah.
Either one. I think they would both fit in well. I think Barron would fit in with Anarumo and all the zone defenses. I think Johnson. I mean, we both love Johnson. He's really good. So, I think with Campbell not there too, that hurts me because I would take. I'm with the fans and Jahad Campbell. That 12% that we have there taking him. I'm about that too. I think one of these two corners is probably
that's what I would
next
do.
Up at what you're looking at.
I actually am gonna go with Will Johnson. I'm looking at Lou Anarumo and what he ran last year with the Bengals. He kind of was average in terms of man coverage rate and zone coverage rate, and I think Will Johnson is a good man and zone corner in this draft. So I am taking Will Johnson. I have him higher on my big board than Jahdae Barron too, but if the Colts ran, for example, one of the highest rates of zone coverage in the NFL, maybe I would have gone with him there. But with Lou Anarumo running more of a even amount of man and zone coverage, I'd rather go with Will Johnson there. So I'll go with Will Johnson to the Indianapolis Colts.
Makes sense. I think it's reasonable. I think it makes their secondary a lot more viable, especially out there on the outside. They spent some money to get Charvarius Ward on one outside corner spot. I think Will Johnson would be very much worthy of the other one.
Yep. All right. Number 15 overall, the Atlanta Falcons. Let's see who's not available to you. Mike Green, Jahad Campbell, James Pierce Jr., Mykel Williams, and Jalen Walker. Okay. A lot of front seven
That's
players.
A whole lot of edge rushing right there. Even Jahad Campbell as the linebacker can get down and blitz a little bit. I mean, so it's very clear that Falcons fans
want an edge.
Know that they need pass rush help because what is it? This accounts for darn well
53% take an edge rusher.
Yeah, I mean, plus another almost 20% take Jahad Campbell.
Yeah.
So we're really you talk about against the grain, sure. But you left one option open for me. If they were going to get deeper into this defensive line class, and I don't think this is by any means off the board, right, when you talk about Atlanta, because they need another outside corner across from A.J. Terrell. Heavy zone defense with Raheem Morris. Dip into the D-line depth. I think you and I both believe defensive line is a deeper unit this year than cornerback. We went through our cornerback rankings last week. Check out that episode too. I'll take Jahdae Barron here. And with the idea of playing outside across from A.J. Terrell, I think it's a great defense for him to be in. I would have loved him for this Cardinals team next at 16, but with no edge rushers at least available to me in this scenario, I really like Barron. I actually think it would still be a possibility. I think this is more realistic than people think for both the Falcons and the Cardinals. A lot of people are locked in on defensive line. The majority of the mock draft sim users are in on defensive line, but if there's somebody in the secondary they really like, if they feel like Barron is a top 10 player in this draft or something like that, then you know what? I could see it. This is actually not that off the wall to me. For as much as they need pass rush help, it's a deep defensive line class, and they could get into day 2 on it.
Absolutely. Any thought at stopping the Ted McMillan slide there and pairing him with a guy that a lot of people compare him to in Drake London?
A little bit. I mean, I guess I could have thought about Warren too, but it sounds like Kyle Pitts is still going to get another year there. But I just think I'm so locked in on improving this Falcons pass defense that I think even for the sake of realism, I think Barron actually would be a realistic. I don't think that's actually off the table, despite all of the projections saying the Falcons are getting a pass rusher.
Yeah. All right, Arizona Cardinals, Donnie's team here at number 16 overall, already putting me under pressure, saying don't screw it up here. So, Will Johnson, who was already taken, I can't take. Kenneth Grant, I cannot take. Jahdae Barron, I can't take. Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., and Walter Nolan are the fans most often select here.
I know where I would go with this. If that's with all that, yeah. I know exactly where I'd go with this.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hold on, I'm trying to look through it real quick.
Oh, you don't have to go very far. I think this is pretty simple, actually.
Hold on. I'm just kind of running through scenarios in my head right now. Well, Jahad Campbell, maybe?
I think it's Jahad Campbell.
Yeah,
I think they're not particularly stacked at linebacker. I think I'm pulling up the chart now, but I think it's Kaiser White and somebody else I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but it's not a particularly great linebacker.
Akeem Davis-Gaither and Mac Wilson are their linebackers right now.
Oh, and Mac Wilson. Oh, they don't have Kaiser White anymore. Okay.
No.
Yeah, no, that's Jahad Campbell.
Yeah.
If you're allowed to do it, that's where I'd go with
yeah, I'm going to go Jahad Campbell here, too.
And I do think we have to talk about the Cardinals, and I find it interesting that Johnson and Barron were creeping up, I think both in the top 3 of the most selected player, because for as many defensive linemen as the Cardinals have signed, I think it's getting less and less likely that they're going to take one in the first round. I really think corner, if Jahdae Barron was there, I really believe that could be a pick, a great fit, another zone defense with Jonathan Gannon. I think if Jahad Campbell was there, they would think about it. If one of the big 3 offensive linemen, especially Membu, somehow fell to 16, I think that'd be a thought to fill in that right tackle spot. But I think Campbell would be a fantastic fit for them anyway. If he was sitting there, I think they'd really think about him regardless.
I think so, too. All right, before we get to the number 17 overall pick, our producer Eli sent us a message who he wants to take at number 17 for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'll talk about the sponsor of the show. That is Fabric by Gerber Life. What does your child's future success look like to you? A job they're passionate about, traveling around the world, or just being happy and comfortable? Whatever their journey, you can help make it easier to achieve with a kids investment account from Fabric by Gerber Life. By making a contribution to your child's future today, you can help give them the means to pursue their dreams, big and small. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest when they're minors, but a kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf right now, giving their investments more time to grow. Funds can be used for nearly anything benefiting your child, from tuition and tutors to music classes, and when they're adults and out on their own, they can use the funds for anything that they need. It's all online. Manage your child's account and monitor their investments right from your phone. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. That's meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. Portfolios managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right, Producer Eli, newly engaged Producer Eli, by the way. There's some W's in the chat for Producer Eli and Elizabeth for getting engaged this past weekend.
What a weekend for him.
What a weekend. Eli, and also Duke fan, so some L's in the chat for Eli as well after a brutal loss for the Duke Blue Devils. Yeah. I love that we don't have our IFBs in right now because I'm sure he'd be cursing me out if we had
Oh, he is. There's no
so
question.
So he can't even get out over the air. Eli, with let's look at who's not available to you with the Cincinnati Bengals. Mike Green, Kenneth Grant, Malachi Starks, Jahad Campbell, Walter Nolan, James Pierce Jr. Who are you going with? Maybe you could circle the player who you want to go with here instead of just messaging us. But who would you like to go with here for the there we go, Michael Williams.
He thinks it'll be Michael. And the interesting part of this is, you can see in the analysis there, 61% of mock draft sim users are taking a defensive lineman to Cincinnati right now. Eli found a way to work around the guys that he couldn't take, and he thinks the Bengals would still find a way to go defensive lineman, and in this case, Michael Williams, who's not among the top 6 players that we're seeing right here that users have been taking. But it's a pick I actually think, again, this could happen.
He's number 15 on the consensus board right now, so it feels like this is kind of his range.
He says here as well that he thought about Gray Zabel, maybe reaching a little bit for an interior lineman, putting Gray Zabel at one of those starting guard spots. But I think
Tyler Warren?
Another
Penn State tight end?
Another Penn State tight end load up on it. Actually, if you really wanted to, but Eli wants defense.
Yeah,
he's trying to figure out
defense. Yeah.
He knows that the Bengals need to make stops. They can't win every game 50-48. I get it. I actually think Michael, this is actually this is something that could happen. I mean, I think in league circles, there are still some that believe Michael is a top 12 to 15 talent. Maybe the Bengals are one of those teams. We're confirming Michael. There it is, Michael Williams. Michael Williams to the Cincinnati Bengals. All right.
I'm up at number 18 overall. Gray Zabel's gone.
Look at Zabel as the top guy there that users are selecting. They know. They've been watching. They
need it.
They know how much Trevor loves him. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Look at Gray Zabel, the top selected player for Seattle Seahawks fans. Love that.
Gray Zabel, Mike Green, Donovan Ezeraku, and Josh Simmons are not available. I'm actually surprised Tyler Booker is not one of those 6 players. He doesn't fit them at all. But I actually know what I'm going to do here.
Why not just take Tet?
That's what I'm doing. That's exactly what I was going to do.
Let's go. Yeah, let's
McMillan.
Look, there's a road here, whether it's Tet or whether it's somebody else with the Seahawks. I think they're one of the most fascinating draft cases this year. 18th overall pick. 2 picks in the 50s, and then I think 82 and 92. 5 picks in the top 100. I know they need interior offensive line, but I do think day 2 is a sweet spot for that if you're looking for starters, or maybe even I've been shoehorning them getting Zabel in some sort of trade, moving up from 50 in a couple mock drafts already. I think receivers very much on the board, and a receiver, if it were Tet, who also, let's be real, we have him extremely high on our board. Mm-hmm. We have seen mock drafts from other outlets recently that have Tet going in this range or even in the low 20s.
Yeah.
I think if Seattle were to get Tet at 18 and then figure out interior line later, and you've got that real X receiver, right? You got Cooper Kupp. You've got Smith and Jigba in the slot. You've got Marquez Valdez-Scantling as kind of that speed threat that Clint Kubiak likes. I actually think this is more realistic than we think it is, and it'd be a fantastic value for Seattle at 18.
It'd be an elite value, and you have a guy who actually plays on the outside, whereas you have 2 slot receivers right now in Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think Tet McMillan would provide a much-needed size to that receiver room. So I love that pick at number 18.
And a downfield threat for an OC and a quarterback who both like to throw the football vertically down the field. I think if Tet were there at 18 on draft night, and we're sitting there on that Thursday night, 17 days away, that's all we are, 17 days from now. If this were a possibility, I'd be screaming for it. Yeah. I would tell Seattle, take Tetero and McMillan and figure out the offensive line on day 2 for sure. I like that a lot.
You are up at number 19 overall with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Donovan Ezeraku not available. Malachi Stark's not available. And Mike Green is not available for you.
I see here the fans have gotten on with Trevor about Ezeraku to the Bucs. I see they're listening to Trevor as well. They should. Good player, good team fit. Is he not? Damn, Starks isn't available either. So no Green, no Starks, no Ezeraku. Oh, you guys are making life hard on me, the fans. The fans are killing me right now. Wow, look at that. I don't need a receiver.
Like Nick Scorton, maybe?
What I think about, we still have Tyler Warren on the board. I know they have Kate Otten, but
yeah, I mean, at some point he's got to stop the.
Do you almost just take it for the value and just say, I think I do?
Yeah.
Because I like Kate Otten. He's a good player, but at some point
this
here...
is a top 10 player.
Tyler Warren's Tyler Warren. Yeah, let's just do it. Let's get Tyler Warren. We'll get Tyler Warren. We'll get Kate Otten going with him. Maybe work in some 12 personnel. You make this Bucs offense just completely supercharged. I just look at the rest of what was... I can't do Starks. I can't do Green. I can't do Ezeraku. Kenneth Grant, I mean, they already have Vita Vea. I'm not doing that. It's at a point there where I'm either reaching or I'm taking Tyler Warren. I'm just going to take the best player on the board. Forget it.
Yeah, I like it. All right. This is tough, man. 20 overall. Omarion Hampton's gone. Luther Burden III's gone. Emeka Egbuka's gone. Matthew Golden's gone. And even Kenneth Grant is gone, too.
Jeez. Look at this. Look at these numbers on the bottom. You've got 77% of people going running back or receiver with this pick. They want offensive weapons in Denver.
God.
And no Loveland. Can you do Loveland?
No, I can do Loveland. They signed Evan Ingram. That's what I actually was thinking about. But they signed Evan Ingram. I still think that's not precluding you from
the style that Ingram is. Assuming Loveland's shoulder is healthy and he can block, I don't think that actually prevents you, because I think Ingram as just your number one feature type. They need to fix that whole room, because I believe they have the lowest receiving grade in football. I don't hate the idea of Loveland with Ingram. Ain't bad.
It's only a 2-year contract for Evan Ingram too, so it's not a long-term answer for Denver at tight end. This is a guy that a lot of people have to the Broncos before they signed Evan Ingram. Now, of course, you see now that not a lot of fans are doing it. But I think in this kind of mock draft, with none of those players elsewhere available, I think Evan Ingram, Colson Loveland, would be a pick they still might go with here. I don't think Evan Ingram on a 2-year contract is even a long-term answer at tight end. I think Colston Loveland could be that for Bo Nix.
And I think they're two different types of players, too. Ingram's a guy who works very much with the ball in his hands and after the catch, and Loveland's just a dynamic route runner.
Yeah.
I still think it's very much on the board if he's sitting there at 20. I'm with back-to-back tight ends. How about it? 19 and 20. I don't
Number 21 overall, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jackson Dart is not available for you, Dalton, unfortunately. He's the most often selected player here.
He's the most selected player for Pittsburgh.
I will say it right now. I don't think Jalen Moreau is off the table at number 21 either. For the
you
Steelers.
saw he's invited to Green Bay to go to the draft.
And they usually don't do that if a player is going to be going lower. So there might be some intel there that Jalen Moreau's going to go a little higher. It's
not going to be a Will Levis situation?
It might be. I don't know. All right, so Jackson Dart, Malachi Stark's not available, Shador Sanders, Josh Simmons, Kenneth Grant, Amarian Hampton. Those are the 6 players you cannot pick.
6 players at 5 different positions. I'm kind of can we just throw this in there with your Pittsburgh Steelers?
I'm Mekhi Buka.
I'm kind of
yeah.
I'll get there because
or even Luther Burden.
I'm in on either of those ideas, but I find it funny that you have a mix of 5 different positions among the top 6 players for the Steelers, and I'm kind of in this boat where they're one of the teams I really don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what direction. I don't know how much they like these quarterbacks. If they have a shot to jump at Shador, maybe. I know he's sitting there as the 3rd most picked player. Do they like Jackson Dart enough to do that? Is Aaron Rodgers their quarterback? Do we have?
Rappaport came out today and said he's most likely not retiring, and it sounds like a deal with the Steelers will be done soon. So it feels like he's most likely to miss.
I mean, I know Aaron has a different definition of the word soon than the rest.
But he's also he's 40 years old. It's not a long-term answer either for Steelers, right? So
also true.
You can still draft one.
If you're taking Dart to sit behind him, I can't do it here. I think it just very much is representative, and I'm with this. I don't know what the Steelers are. I don't know what they're going to do. So, I mean, you're right, and this is a scenario where I really think about. I keep saying this. They need another receiver to just diversify what they do because Metcalf's a vertical guy. George Pickens is a vertical guy. Calvin Austin's a fast vertical guy. Even Roman Wilson, who they took last year out of Michigan, he's more of a vertical guy, albeit from the slot. I'm going to Mekhi Buka here still.
All right, and not Burden.
2 things about that. I think one, Ibuka as just the so reliable, especially zone beater underneath and the crafty route runner, I think fits in a little better. And with the run blocking, because they need a little help there too, I think Ibuka helps too. Does it just feel like Ibuka is going to go ahead of Burden on draft day?
Yeah, probably.
It just kind of feels like it, doesn't it? I think Ibuka, and then you're adding in, Luther Burden in with Metcalf and Pickens, and who knows where that goes, and there's been rumors about that. But I think Ibuka is a coach's best friend, and I do think there is a feeling that he's going to go before Burden. And this is a pick that I've mocked anyway. I think it's on the table. They need somebody who's just an underneath route runner. Ibuka's that guy. I'm going there.
All right. I like it. At number 21 overall to the Steelers. Number 22 overall, the Los Angeles Chargers. The Steelers not available to me here. Colston Loveland, Matthew Golden, Kenneth Grant, Emeka Egbuka, and Luther Burden III. I have some ideas here for the Chargers.
A weapon or a Michigan man is what we're looking at, because Loveland and Grant take up, 44% of that.
Yeah.
Just the Jim Harbaugh conspiracies are in full
I am
tilt.
still going to go with a defensive lineman here, and I'm going to go with Mike Green, the edge out of Marshall. I think after losing Joey Bosa, or you actually cut Joey Bosa now at the Buffalo Bills, I think that getting another edge alongside Khalil Mack, who is getting up there in age, even though he's aging like fine wine, Mike Green is a guy I think that Jim Harbaugh will be very interested in, and he fits that defense too as a stand-up rusher. So I think Mike Green here at number 22 overall, if he was available here, would be a player the Chargers are very interested in.
Mike Green and Khalil Mack, that's good stuff.
Yeah, big fan of that.
Can't hate that. Big fan of that. All right, Green Bay.
Here you go.
Let's see. We've got half the people. We got a lot of this. We've got
only 2 players that are still available, actually, though.
Interesting. Well, right. I find it interesting. So we've got 54% of people want a defensive lineman. Almost 30% want a wide receiver. And then there's 10% there that want a corner. And to be honest with you, that's all the needs. You guys covered it. You guys covered it here. So no Pierce, no Harmon.
The only guys that are not available to you are Harmon and Matthew Golden. Everyone else has been picked. Or Burden, too. So there's 3 players not available.
You know what? I'm going to cheat it. I'm going to stay. I think a lot of these needs are very much equal. Corner is tough to read because there's some people that say maybe could this be a Siobhan Ravel spot? Or do I stick with my Jeff Hafley conspiracy and just take Ezra?
Oh, I don't hate that.
Because I do have my Jeff Hafley, Donovan Ezraku conspiracy.
I think that's probably what I would do.
It's just been, all right, we're going with it. Donovan Ezraku, edge or corner. I think Siobhan Ravel would, if Jeff Hafley's trying to get back to the man-to-man defense heavy that he played at Boston College. Last year went more zone, but I think that was out of necessity. And he wasn't going to play it as heavy as he did at BC anyway. I think corner is very much a possibility there. If it's Siobhan Ravel, if it's Trey Amos, I think one of those guys could be possible. But I'm sticking to it. Until it doesn't happen, I'm going to stick to it that Jeff Hafley might try to find a way to get his guy.
And just to explain for people, Jeff Hafley, the former Boston College D coordinator, or head coach. Now the D coordinator for the Packers, Donovan Ezraku, obviously played for him at Boston College, so it makes a lot of sense there. At number 23, I know a lot of people have been penciling in Kenneth Grant or Colson Lovin to Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter at the Chargers. Donovan Ezraku to the Packers makes almost as much sense as well because of that. So I like that fit. Number 24 overall, this is tough, man.
This is tough. They took all your options.
Everyone.
I'll tell you what, that group of guys right there that's down for the Vikings, if they stay here at 24, again, I think it's kind of likely they trade down because they have only 4 picks the whole draft, but that's pretty much the group of guys that I've been thinking about for the Vikings.
Yep. Malachi Starks is gone. Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant, Amarian Hampton, Nick Manwari. Those are the 6 guys I cannot take with this selection right here.
Okay, so, oof. All right, you go first. What do you think?
I'm thinking.
There's 2 guys I'm thinking about here.
I'm looking at Siobhan Ravel.
That's one of them.
And
I might still think about a Gray Zabel. This is a place where he might fit. I know they signed Fries, and Ryan Kelly's, I think, on a 2-year deal, and even Zabel could compete for that left guard spot. O-line depth is never a bad thing to have, but Ravel's a good call, though. Brian Flores, Siobhan Ravel, that sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go Siobhan Ravel here, the corner out of East Carolina. Very good man corner. Goes to an aggressive defensive coordinator, and Brian Flores just has a lot of blitzes and plays a good amount of man coverage too. So I think Siobhan Ravel, corner's a big need in Minnesota. So I would have liked Malachi Starks here. I would have liked, obviously, Kenneth Grant here as well. But with them not available, because that's who the fans often take, I'm going to go with Siobhan Ravel.
I'll tell you what, that's a suddenly deep corner room. They kept Byron Murphy. Mm-hmm. They get Mekhi Blackmon back from injury. They signed Isaiah Rodgers on a very affordable deal. And now they get Siobhan Ravel. That, you're talking about you getting back to Manda, because they did a lot of zone blitzing last year because they were kind of short out there.
Yeah.
Man, you get back to the aggressive zero blitzing man coverage, Brian Flores. You got the guys to do it. I'll tell you what, that could very quickly, if that were a thing with Ravel in there, that could be one of the best cornerback rooms in the league.
It could be. Absolutely.
That's nasty.
All right, number 25 overall, see who's not available for you, Dalton. Kelvin Banks Jr., Josh Simmons, Gray Zabel, Emeka Egbuka, and Luther Burden III.
I sense a theme here.
63% take an offensive tackle and 26%-ish take a wide receiver. So what will you do? You've often said that, D tackle is still kind of a need on this team, and Kenneth Grant's still staring in the face, and he's available here.
So I can't take Burden. To me, there's 2 guys. There's 2 guys I look at here. One is Kenneth Grant.
Yeah.
Because they need, the only thing missing on this Texans defense is just that big run stuffer between the tackles, and Grant would be perfect. The other guy that wasn't in that top 5, and I'm surprised because he's probably the 6th guy, but he's at least allowed to be taken here, is Matthew Golden.
Oh, I don't hate that either. Yeah, those are 2 guys. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too.
That's my thing is, do I want to go run defense or... Matthew Golden would complete. That's the type of player I think that would complete this receiving core, because obviously you've got Nico Collins as the big ISO X. You've got Christian Kirk in the slot. If he's healthy, that's good enough in the slot. And Golden kind of perfectly fits into that Z receiver mix there as a really good route runner. Essentially, and I think it's, isn't it Trevor's draft guide comp for Golden? Is Stephon Diggs?
I think so, yeah. After he's gone now, yeah. I think
for as much as I love Kenneth Grant, and I would love him on this team, there are other big A-gap run pluggers on day 2 and 3 of this draft, and they have some draft capital to work with. I think about let's say a guy like a C.J. West from Indiana later on, or maybe round 2 with Tyleek Williams or something like that. I'm going to go Matthew Golden here because you know what? It's an option, and I think it would be a seamless fit as just that dynamic off the ball, hopefully doesn't get too much press coverage route runner. That again, there is a part of this. I know offensive line is, 63% we said we're taking offensive tackles? I get it, and I get that it feels like such a necessity. But also, if there isn't one there that they feel good enough about, the Texans have other options at receiver and at defensive tackle like we just went over. It is not guaranteed that they're taking an offensive lineman in round 1 at all. They have other ways that can improve their football team as well. And I know the O-line's a big concern. Whether they draft a rookie or not, it's going to be a big concern anyway. Protecting C.J. Stroud, I mean, that's the franchise, right? We've seen it with other teams. You can't win without elite pass protection, but I don't think that's going to be a one-year project anyway. They just traded Tunsil, right? They got draft capital this year, next year. Maybe they find some depth guys that can compete for jobs, but I think receiver and D-tackle are very much on the board for the Texans at 25.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. All right, number 26 overall, the LA Rams. Colston Loveland, most often selected by them. Jalen Walker, Calvin Banks Jr., Josh Simmons, and Gray Zabel are the 5 that are not available to me. So really, it's only Josh Simmons and Gray Zabel that I cannot select here for the LA Rams because the top 3 right there are also off the board already. Okay. Ooh, some weird ones here. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to take one that I think is actually realistic on draft night. I'm going to go with Maxwell Hairston, the corner out of Kentucky. I think he fits their zone-heavy scheme very well. It seems like he's going to be at least early second-round pick, if not sneaking into the first round. And I think if he's going to go in the first round, one of those teams might be the LA Rams. Chris Shula running a lot of zone coverage. Maxwell Harrison had the fastest 40-yard dash of any player at the Combine this past year. I think, and they have a desperate need at corner. I believe none of their corners on the roster right now were among the 50 highest graded corners in the NFL last year. So really, really, that's their biggest need on the roster, I think, is corner. And Maxwell Harrison, I think, fits the defense. This is higher than I personally would take him here, but I think in a predictive mock draft, this is probably around the range where he'd go. I think he fits the defense, and I think this is a pick that LA probably might be making on draft night.
The 2 immediate spots of improvement for them on defense need to be linebacker and corner, and there's not a linebacker I would take in this range. I don't think there's any way Campbell's getting to him. If that was the case, then that's one thing. But I think linebacker might be a day 2 need. But Hairston there, he's got really good feet, like you mentioned, really good, reads the ball really well in zone coverage, gets downhill, attacks the football. Not as great in man-to-man, but they don't run a whole lot of man-to-man. So I think you're right. This might be the highest spot where I start to think about Hairston, but it is a solid scheme fit. I think it would make a lot of sense, like you mentioned, for Chris Shula to get a guy like that.
All right, number 27 overall, the Baltimore Ravens. You got James Pierce Jr., Shamar Stewart, Mykel Williams, Donovan Ezerako, and Malachi Starks. So really only Malachi Starks is not available for you in this.
That's intriguing to me too. Almost 61% of people taking an edge defender. Really need some pass rush.
Tyler Booker's still there.
Wow.
Gray Zabel's still there too. I don't know. We're trying.
I've been thinking. Trevor and I actually talked about this morning, and he thinks either one would work. I've been thinking that Booker might be the idea here for the Ravens. Now, again, I find it again more than 60% when edge defender.
Yeah,
that's. I mean, you look at the names sitting there: Pierce, Shamar Stewart if he gets there, Mykel Williams if he gets there, Donovan Ezeraku might be more realistic in this range, but we'll see. Maybe Pierce.
I think Pierce is too.
Maybe Pierce is too, the way things have been going lately in the rumor mill. But I'm actually going to stick with my gut here and say let's plug and play Tyler Booker into that left guard spot vacated by Patrick McCarry, who went to Jacksonville in free agency. It's available there. I think it's very much on the board. There's still a lot of people still think Tyler Booker is going first round.
Yep.
Didn't have a good combine, obviously. I think there's limits on the athletic ceiling, especially in the run game and moving laterally, but it's a pretty darn good base in pass protection. He had the 4th best true pass blocking grade in the country last year. So, I mean, even if you just got that out of him and you never got a spectacular run blocker, pass protection is king. These guys get paid to pass protect. You get paid to protect Lamar Jackson. You've got Ronnie Stanley next to him. You've got Tyler Linderbaum next to him. Can't do a whole lot better than that.
All right. I like that a lot. Tyler Booker going to the Ravens. I think that's actually a really realistic pick, too. It's actually a pick I've done in a lot of mock drafts, and an actual real mock draft, not just the one that we're trying to have some fun with today. Number 28 overall, the Detroit Lions. A lot of edge rushers are off the board here for me. Pierce, Scorton, Shamar Stewart, Jalen Walker, and then Gray Zabel and Mykel Williams as well are not available for me. Some interesting dilemmas here now I have with the with the Detroit Lions. I feel like, I mean, you see it right there. Over 50% of people take an edge rusher for the Lions.
Plus, most of that 10% taken linebacker are taking Jalen Walker.
So it's almost like 60%.
And you would wonder if there's an assumption there that he's going to move. I mean, at least partially play off the edge. You can't draft Jalen Walker without blitzing him some. But I mean, it's pretty clear what the Lions need here. So now it's kind of fishing for, okay, what in the world would they take if it wasn't a defensive lineman? Because I don't think, maybe for depth purposes, but I think with Christian Mahogany, I don't necessarily think they need a guard. I would play Mahogany at right guard.
Yeah.
He was underdrafted last year, big time.
Unless
you went crazy and took a receiver, but I mean, you've got St. Brown and Jameson, and they re-signed Tim Patrick. I mean, Tim Patrick did good work for him, for sure.
They got DJ Reader and Ali McNeil. So I was looking at Kenneth Grant, too. God, this is hard.
This is a tough one. There's a gutsy part of me that wants to take a receiver just to do it.
That's what I was looking. I was looking at Luther Burden. They are loaded.
I mean, they have a ton of corners too. You have Terrion Arnold.
I don't know if they go to
DJ
DB.
Reed.
I don't know if they go to DB here.
You have Rake Straw. Is there a linebacker you could reach for?
That'd be a reach. That'd be a big reach.
Okay. All right.
I'm between Luther Burden and Kenneth Grant right now for them.
Okay, or do you force an edge player that might be a surprise first rounder? Could you see Princely Amon-Mielon or something? I'm just saying.
Like that'd be a reach too.
It might be, but if we're forcing and reaching for edge players, or I know we like
Landon Jackson.
We like Jack Sawyer too a lot more than some other. I know we're circling back to like January when we were.
I know. No, I just don't think it's
going to happen. Sawyer to the Lions every week.
I'm trying to get a little realistic here. You know what I'm gonna do, and I know you don't love it because I know you just mentioned the point about Christian Mahogany. I'm gonna go Gray Zabel here. They run a lot of zone blocking in Detroit. Guard could be a potential need for them, even though they've got some players there like Christian Mahogany. But I don't know. I don't think Christian Mahogany is necessarily stopping you from taking another offensive lineman. And Gray Zabel is so good at the Senior Bowl, can play on the interior for you as well. Maybe could take over maybe at center when Frank Ragnow hangs up the cleats, whenever that is. I know there's been retirement rumors with him in the past. So I'm going to go with Gray Zabel here, and I think he fits the scheme, the zone blocking scheme they run very well.
And Graham Glasgow, too, is going to be 33 years old as well.
Yeah.
I mean, either one, guard or center. That's kind of the fun part with Gray Zabel is even if they don't feel like, they need to start him right away, if Mahogany wins the right guard job, well, you got two older players in Glasgow and Ragnow who, okay, eventually Zabel could take over, or he could compete for the right guard spot as well.
Oh, damn it. Did I mess it up? I think one of the fans just mentioned it. I think Lions fans take Gray Zabel in the mock.
Oh, did you?
I didn't read his
name.
You
blew it.
Okay, wait. All right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take Luther Burden instead. I know we can't redo the mock, but just we'll say it at the end. Luther Burden the third is going to the Detroit Lions. Good catch. Who was that in the chat? Trace. Good catch in that right there.
See, This is why you can't leave Max.
God, this damn mock draft.
You can't leave Max. You can't leave Max to his own devices.
Oh, man.
All right, so it was Burden, so I just can't take Burden.
Sorry, yes. Luther Burden the third, not Gray Zabel. Sorry, Eli. I fucked that up.
I didn't jump the gun. You just
wait. Let me just make sure because I thought I didn't see him.
No, I saw it. I just looked at it. He was 8% of people were taking Gray Zabel.
I already messed up the mock draft. All right, Luther Burden the third going to the Lions, going scorched earth for that offense.
Okay, all right. Let's see. So I couldn't have taken Burden with the Commanders here anyway. So we're on to Washington. I can't take Amarion Hampton, the most drafted player.
That's interesting
to the Commanders.
Yeah. That's really going scorched earth for that offense.
We need a workhorse back in Washington. Okay, Pierce, Scorton, Shamar Stewart. So I basically just
and Burden's off the board. Actually,
so I pretty much just can't take Scorton or Hampton.
Yes.
What does Dan Quinn want?
Nick Manworry? They lost Jeremy Chin.
I think I'm just going to take Malachi Starks.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he was still there,
just
too.
Best player on the board.
I forgot about that, yeah.
And at corner would be an option, too. Trey Amos would be a possibility here, too. I think they do need help at corner. But I think Starks, I think just best. I'm going best player available. I'll take Malachi Starks here.
Love it. Malachi Starks going to the Washington Commanders at number 29. Overall, I've got the Buffalo Bills up at number 30 overall. My MDS is like lagging behind right now. I think it's because he's mad at me that I messed up the pick.
Yeah. So we had Starks to Washington.
Starks to Washington, yeah. And then still loading.
From what I'm seeing here,
can you go to the analysis real quick? I'm just trying to see. My MDS is not really working right now. All right, so Derek Harmon.
You really. Oh man, it's really crashed on.
It's crashing on me. Yeah, it gets pissed at me that I messed up the Lions pick at 28 overall.
It's the quiet producer is what
it is. Yeah. All right, so Derek Harmon, Nick Scorton, James Pierce Jr., Luther Burden III, Jalen Walker, and Walter Nolan are not available.
I don't see any reason to overthink this either.
Well, I don't have it in front. Oh, Kenneth Grant's still available, right?
Yes.
All right, I'm taking Kenneth Grant. I'm taking Kenneth Grant over to the Buffalo Bills at number 30 overall. It's pretty easy, and I think that's a pick that they would sprint the card in if he actually was available. So number 30, Kenneth Grant go to the Bills. Number 31, the Chiefs.
Okay, 31. So I can't take – so no Derek Harmon, no Gray Zabel, thankfully. No Josh Connerly. That's an interesting pick. That's the first time we've mentioned his name, and I think that could be a reasonable pick here. 31 to the Chiefs. Luther Burden, Walter Nolan, James Pierce, all already gone. Almost 42%. We've got almost 42% of people going offensive tackle and 28% taking defensive tackle.
Wow.
Chiefs need trench help. All right. So, no Connerly, no Harmon, no Simmons. Was Simmons mentioned there? Well, it might be Josh Simmons here. Simmons might be the pick here.
Even with Laremy Tunsil.
Kansas City. We're on Kansas City.
I'm still on Washington.
Easy.
Sorry, I'm looking. My screen's still on Washington.
Oh, you're still stuck.
I'm losing it right now.
If the Chiefs got Tunsil,
that would be
they're going to a fourth straight Super Bowl. Is what they're doing.
God, I'm losing it right now.
For the sake of I think some amount of realism, because I do think if he was here, they would think about it. I'll go Josh Simmons to the Chiefs.
Yeah, I like it.
I think I'm assuming he's not among the 6 most drafted players here because he's been going sooner in these mocks. Being that he's 17th on our big board, he's got Trevor really likes. Trevor actually has him as OT3 behind Will Campbell and Armand Mimbu. Then he's got Simmons and Banks at 4. But we'll go Simmons to Kansas City, 31.
Love it. All right, final up the Philadelphia Eagles at number 32 overall. We got Nick Scorton not available, Derek Harmon, James Pierce Jr., and Luther Burden III. Those are the 4 players I cannot take here.
52% of people reloading on the D-line, replacing one of either Milton Williams or Josh Sweat. And honestly, Scorton and Harmon are two of the 2 guys that I've been doing that most often with as well. So I'm curious if you have another option there, or if there's something else you're thinking about. No Scorton, no Harmon.
Yeah, no Scorton, no Harmon. What about I have an idea here.
You have an idea?
Let me just look at the depth chart.
I've had a lot of ideas lately.
I've had a lot of ideas. One of them is breaking the rules here on this mock draft.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know what I'm doing here.
A mock draft where we were already breaking the rules. You further broken the rules.
I went back on the rule, yeah. I am taking Nick Emmanwori, the safety out of South Carolina, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's going to be a first-round pick, and they lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They have Sidney Brown, who they drafted earlier in the 3rd round a couple years ago, but at strong safety, I don't think that's stopping you from taking Nick Emmanwori here, though, and I think he could immediately slot in as your starting strong safety with Reed Blankenship playing free safety. I think this is a pick that they would love on that defense. And it feels like Howard Roseman just always stops the slide of guys that are going to go high in the draft, and I think Nick Emmanwori would fit that billing here.
Superb athlete, big hitter, change of direction, not great. I'm not trusting him in single high situations, but the Eagles are very rarely in single high situations, and generally that's going to be left to Reed Blankenship or maybe even Sidney Brown. I think is a safety who could help in run support and still at least somewhat cover that deep half, even the quarter areas of the field. I think not quite as heady to the football and not quite as good a change of direction as Gardner-Johnson, but that big body and that guy who's that athletic and can certainly hit in the run game, I think Vic Fangio would actually think about it.
Love it. Nick Emmanwori going to the Philadelphia Eagles at number 32 overall, and that wraps up our most unique mock draft that we've done so far on this channel. Let's just go over the picks that we had in this mock draft. At number 1 overall, the Titans. And just to remind people, because it looks like a crazy mock draft on the surface, this mock draft, we could not go with the consensus picks of the fans in the PFF mock draft simulator. So the most popular picks we could not make for those teams. So at number 1 overall, Shedeur Sanders going to the Titans. Number 2, Cam Ward to the Browns. Number 3, Mason Graham to the Giants. Number 4, Calvin Banks Jr. to the Patriots. Number 5, Jalen Walker to the Jaguars. Number 6, Travis Hunter to to the Raiders. Number 7, Abdul Carter to the Jets. James Pierce Jr. to the Panthers. Armand Membu to the Saints. Shamar Stewart to the Bears. Walter Nolan to the 49ers. Ashton Jinty to the Cowboys. Will Campbell to the Dolphins. Will Johnson to the Colts. Jahdae Barron to the Falcons. Jahad Campbell to the Cardinals. Michael Williams to the Bengals. Tedder McMillan to the Seahawks. Tyler Warren to the Buccaneers. Colson Lovin to the Broncos. Emeka Egbuka to the Steelers. Mike Green to the Chargers. Donovan Ezerako to the Packers. Savon Ravel to the Vikings. Matthew Golden to the Texans. Maxwell Hairston going to the Rams. Tyler Booker going to the Ravens. Luther Burden, not Gray's able, going to the Lions. Shout out Trace for catching that one right there because I broke the rules with that one. Malachi Starks going to the Commanders. Kenneth Grant to the Bills. Josh Simmons to the Chiefs. And Nick Emmanwori rounding it out to the Philadelphia
I got to
Eagles.
be honest with you. Beyond the top 7 and maybe Tyler Warren falling the way that we had him falling, I think when you look at 8 through 32 here, I don't think it's that off base. And I know a lot of it's dependent on what goes on in the top 7, but I really think the top 6 or 7 might be, really especially the top 6, right? Because for the most part, except for Kelvin Banks working his way in there at number 4, I think a lot of this top 6 is close. I don't want to say locked in, but it seems like a different caliber of player in that top 6 to 8. And then once you get to the rest of it, I think there are a lot of teams with multiple options. Again, when you look at teams like the Bears at 10, when you look at if Ashton Jinty were to get to the Cowboys at 12, like we were projecting months ago, and some of these other picks, I think there are more decisions. I know there's so often we have to remember it can feel like there's these teams that have this one specific need that the fans want so bad, but the board is the board, and front offices are going to stick to their board regardless of position. And look, they know there's positions that they need more than some others, right? We know the Houston Texans don't need a quarterback or anything like that, but you have multiple options, and it's going to be fun decisions, I think, especially in the mid to late rounds of this, or I should say mid to later part of this first round, to see which way these teams go, because it's not always going to be the most obvious thing. We see it every year.
And we've done so many mock drafts. I'm sure every one of our viewers has seen so many mock drafts from other people that's the same picks over and over and over again. And, we're 2 weeks away from the draft, and I'm sure it's getting nauseating seeing the same picks over and over and over again. So we wanted to make it a little different here on this channel. And, of course, the NFL draft is not going to go the exact way you thought it was going to go, right? So that's trying what we're doing here as well, is saying, hey, if they're going to go outside the box and not go with a player that most fans think they're going to go with, who are some of the players they could go with, right? Because there has been some shocking picks just last year, like I mentioned before, with Michael Penix Jr. going to the Falcons. So, again, it's a unique mock draft, not the most realistic one that we're going to do here on this channel. We'll still do one more really realistic mock draft during draft week, but we wanted to give you guys a kind of a unique one using the PFF mock draft simulator that is available to you guys at PFF.com. But that wraps up this episode, our mock draft that we cannot take any of the picks that fans make using the PFF mock draft simulator. We have plenty more episodes coming this Thursday. Dalton and I wrap up our position rankings with the top 10 safeties in the 2025 NFL draft. And then next week, Dalton, we are doing our all eligible mock draft. If you thought this mock draft is unique, next week we got Arch Manning, we got DJ Lagway, Jeremiah Smith, Cam Ward, all the guys
Dylan
this year.
Stewart, all these freaks from 2027 we're going to be talking about the next 2 years. No, that's it. You want controversial. I'm sure we're going to find it in that one too.
It's going to start at number 1 overall. We're even talking about how we're going to structure that mock draft right now. At number 1 overall is going to get some hot takes early. So all eligible mock draft coming out next week, and plenty more draft content coming out leading up to the 2025 NFL draft. Producer Eli back there for Dalton Wassman. I'm Max Chadwick. We'll see you guys on Thursday for our top 10 safeties in this year's draft.